Welcome and thank you for being here, joining us on this Tuesday evening. I am curious, maybe as we're just having people pop in slowly, if you were with us in the previous session in our academic how to earn college credit during gap time, would you mind just raising your hand? You should be able to push a button and I'll see it pop up on the participants there. Okay, hi, Grace, Eliza, Anna, Stephanie, thank you all. It's so exciting to see some repeat visitors here. That's great. Thank you so much. So this next part will sound a little bit familiar. I'm just going to welcome everybody here and then we'll get started on our session for today. So hello everyone and welcome to our first week of events for USA Gap Year Fair's first ever virtual campaign. We're so excited to be hosting you today and sharing some information about gap years. We'll give everyone another second as we wait for any latecomers, but in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll to get an idea of who is with us here today. You should see that pop up on your screen now. So go ahead and take a moment to answer that and give our panelists an idea of who we're talking to here today. Right, thank you to those of you who are voting. I'm starting to see those coming in. Leave it up for just another few seconds here. Seeing lots of student representation today, 80% students so far. That's awesome. Thank you for being here today. That's so exciting. All right, I'll share those results so you can all see whose company you're in. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. It's great to have you here with us today. All right, so let's get started. My name is Jessica Beatty. I'm the community manager for Go Overseas, as well as an event coordinator for the USA Gap Year Fairs. For the past 14 years, USA Gap Year Fairs has partnered with progressive high schools across the country to educate, inspire, and empower students to look beyond the classroom and pursue opportunities for experiential learning. As we adapt to changing times, we've redesigned our in-person events to provide our community with inspiration and guidance. Next slide, please. This event is hosted by Go Overseas, which you can think of as Yelp, but for meaningful travel experiences. We don't operate any overseas programs ourselves, but we're a resource for planning many different types of international education, including high school abroad, study abroad, intern, volunteer work, and teach abroad opportunities, as well as gap years. You can browse programs, read verified alumni reviews, and explore other resources such as articles, guides, and scholarships. If you're inspired today to take the leap, this is a great place to start your research. We are so excited to be announcing over $15,000 in gap year scholarships next year. We will be announcing that starting on February 1st to kick off Gap Year Exploration Month. So if you would like to receive updates, you can sign up on the USA Gap Year Fair's landing page. I'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat for you. But do keep an eye on it. We are so excited to include that scholarship as part of our Gap Year campaign for 2021. So we have a fantastic panelist with us here today. We have Marian Taylor of Taylor the Gap. She's our Gap Year counselor who's going to be giving us an introduction. And then we have representation from EF Gap Year, EF International Language Campuses, Melissa Kane from CIEE, and Vanessa here from Amigos de las Americas. So we're super excited to talk to you about language learning during gap time. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you see that Q&A button at the bottom toolbar there, at any point during today's webinar, if you have any questions, do feel free to drop it in that Q&A and we will answer it towards the end of the webinar today. Thank you all for joining us. And with that, I will pass it over to Marian.
Thanks, Jess, and welcome to all of you. Thank you for carving out time on a Tuesday evening. I am really excited to be here because I am a huge language lover. Personally, I believe languages are a tool in your toolkit to be able to travel for the rest of your life, to work professionally, and just connecting with people in other cultures. It's interesting to note that in Europe, most people speak 2 to 5 different languages versus just one here in the US. So I think that's an interesting note. Next slide. Next slide. Kelly?
Looks like we may be having technical difficulties. Oh, there we go.
Okay. This is me in Peru practicing my Spanish. I am a gap year advisor based in Boulder, Colorado. I've been doing this for about 10 years. I became accredited with the Gap Year Association in 2018. And I am a gap year veteran. I took a gap year way back in the medieval ages in 1974. I went to the University of Grenoble to learn French. And then I used that French after my college years, and I entered the Peace Corps. And I used that French to learn a local dialect in French speaking West Africa in Senegal. So I really use that language. And then I have continued to learn Spanish in my adult life, both in Antigua, Guatemala, as well as Cuenca, Ecuador. And then I've continued to travel in Peru, in various other places, Nepal, Ireland, Germany. So it's a terrific tool to have. I'm also a parent of 4 children. They all have taken a gap experience of some sort. My 2 daughters waited until after college, pre-graduate, to kind of dip their toe in a different kind of career. One volunteered, one interned. My son did a study abroad program, and then my eldest son worked in 3 different jobs for his gap year. I also bring about 30 years of social work experience. I've worked with teenagers, families, parents, before I entered into being a gap year advisor. And I just am rotating off the Gap Year Association board. I've been with them for about 2 years and served on 4 different committees. Next slide. So if you did not attend Basic Gap Year 101 yesterday, just a quick overview of the kind of the 4 W's, as I call them. What is a gap year? A gap year is an intentional period of time. It doesn't necessarily have to be a year, where you are stretching yourself, getting outside your comfort zone, perhaps getting outside the traditional classroom where it might be more hands-on learning. It is also a time where you can reflect and really kind of think about what you are learning, whether it be journaling or painting. Who takes a gap year? That's a really good one, because I think it's not ideal for everybody, but for those who really are not sure what they want to study in college or what they want to focus on, a gap year is a terrific way to test that. It's also for someone who is really burnt out. I myself was really burnt out and worked really hard to get into college, and I was just fried. That's a great reason to take a gap year. It's also good for students that really learn better experientially with hands-on. And also for those that might really benefit from another year of growing up, of maturity. Why take a gap year? I think that this is the most important question. It helps you set goals for your gap year. Really, is it because of COVID, or is it because you don't know what you want to study? But it's a chance really to take charge of your learning, to really be proactive. You can develop some intrapersonal skills, self-confidence, independence, resilience, flexibility, gain perspective. You can develop some practical skills, laundry, cooking, budgeting, and also some soft skills that employees really are looking for: team building, leadership, initiative, flexibility. It's also a chance to really kind of be exposed to some deeper life issues: AIDS, human trafficking, disaster relief, global climate change. So those are all really important kind of things to think about when you're developing your why as to take a gap year. And in terms of when to take a gap year, for tonight's purposes, most students are looking at the year between high school and college. But it does not mean that you couldn't take a leave of absence from college. We've seen a lot of students do that this year because of COVID. And then I work with a fair number of students that are between college and grad school, who are looking to gain some life experience to kind of see if they're interested in law or interested in medicine. I've even worked with adults that are between jobs or entering retirement as well. Next slide. There are lots and lots of different types of language options, as you will hear today. Study abroad, if you're within a university setting or before you go to college. Language immersion, you can do language immersion and an internship, or language immersion and service learning. You can combine those two. You can choose whether you want to live with a homestay family, or if you want to be in a residence or a dorm with other students your own age, might bring in that international piece. You can learn a language online. Many have during COVID. They've been in tandem conversations with a student in Bolivia or in France. That's another way to do it. Or just travel independently. I had a program leader who rode his bicycle from the tip of South America all the way down to the southern end. And he did that for 2 years and learned Spanish. So you can do all sorts of things. Tips for choosing a language program. Obviously, if you want to learn a language, you figure out which language you want to learn. Where do you want to start? Are you a beginner? Are you an intermediate? Are you an advanced? Which destination do you want? And with that, what's your comfort level? If you want to learn French, do you want to go to France, or do you want to try a developing country? Go to Morocco or Senegal or Togo, where they also speak French. Do you want to learn Spanish in Spain, or do you want to go to Central or South America? So make sure that you kind of have a sense of, where you're more comfortable. And with that, where the safety component, not only for COVID, but politically, in terms of all the type of things that come along with, revolutions and everything that's going on. Goals. Do you want to become fluent? Do you want to just become conversational? Do you just want to get by with the greetings? What are your goals in learning a language? And what level of comfort are you in terms of a language lab, or what modality, what format works best for you? I personally work best just by talking on the street, going to a market, practicing with locals. So that's important to understand as well. And as you're choosing, make sure you seek out important alumni reviews and recent ones from the last year or two. They can be a real resource in terms of their high points, lower points about the program. See if you want to be in a structured program with very specific classes, but free time in the afternoon, or are you more comfortable in a more unstructured setting? And finally, do you want to be with other GAP students? Or are you okay being mixed in with juniors or sophomores that might be in a study abroad program? These are all things to take into consideration. In terms of college credit, there's lots of pros and cons, but the most important thing is to ask your college in advance if you can have your credit be accepted. A lot of people do it after the fact, and sometimes that doesn't work out. If you are able to get credit for learning French or German or Spanish, it will help with offsetting tuition costs because you will eliminate that language requirement. And once you're on campus, you might be able to participate in a language club, or at my college, we had a chateau where we could learn to speak French, or we could live there, or even, do language lunches. The cons are, if you do come in with college credit and it advances you to the level of sophomore, you might miss out on the opportunity of an orientation or coming in as a freshman. So those are a couple of the cons. There are lots of international options, and we hope those will come back. Obviously, those are reduced with COVID, but we did have students go to Ireland, Costa Rica, and Israel this fall, and more are opening up now. I believe Thailand's opening up, Galapagos, Ecuador. There are a few more opening up, so it will be an opportunity, I think, as we move forward and the vaccine comes into play. Domestically, you can learn online. As I mentioned, tandem conversations. There's quite a few language apps online. They're also teaching English as a foreign language, which is a really good certificate to get, because then you can take it overseas and teach English while you're there. And American Sign Language is another language that people forget. But there's all sorts of opportunities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Kane from CIEE.
Great, thank you, Marian. That was a great overview of different ways to learn languages during your gap year. My name is Melissa Kane. We can move to the next slide if you'd like. I am with CIEE. We are the Council on International Educational Exchange. I've been with CIEE for about 10 years now. It was a career change for me. I was fortunate enough to be an exchange student when I was a sophomore in high school. I spent 8 months living in Brazil and still stay in contact with my homestay family. I became quite proficient in Portuguese, which helped my French and my Spanish and my Italian. So I too am a lover of language. CIEE is the oldest and largest nonprofit organization. We've been around since 1947. We offer programs in a variety of different countries. We start our work with high school age students, extend through gap year, college students, and teach abroad for American students that are interested in doing programs. And we have lots of scholarship money for high school students to do summer programs. Next slide, please. Our mission is to help people gain understanding, acquire knowledge, and develop skills for living in a globally interdependent and culturally diverse world by bringing the world together through the most meaningful exchange programs available. And for high school and gap year students, you can see these different colored dots for our gap programs that are specifically geared to pre-college students. We are located in all those little purple dots. The summer abroad and semester and academic year abroad programs are the other colored dots. Next slide, please. And again, this slide just shows we are summer, semester, year, and gap programs. Next slide, please. Our language, we offer 3 different focuses on our gap year programs. We have language intensive programs, we have service learning programs, and career exploration programs in 13 destinations around the world. And our pre-college gap programs are 6-week blocks. So you can combine 1, 2, or 3 6-week blocks for the fall and the same for the spring. In a post-COVID world, you'll be able to move from destination to destination with each 6-week block. Right now, you have to stay in the same location. We offer 6 different languages, locations where you can learn 6 different languages: Spanish, French, German, Italian, Arabic, and Japanese. And our language programs are students are language intensive, as I said before. They're full immersion, complemented by language classes. So you live with a homestay, you study the language in an academic setting, and then you go on a variety of cultural excursions and activities to explore and use those skills that you're learning in the classroom every day. So it's a lot of different levels of bringing that language to you. We also offer career exploration programs where you can choose an internship or a job shadow in a variety of different settings like tech or sustainability or marketing and that kind of thing, and get some experience before you start college to see if that is a path that you want to follow. All of the career exploration programs are English-based, but have a language component so that it's a way for you to grow your language skills, but have your daily work in English. If you're already experienced in the language, you can use the language of the home country and bring it to a higher level of proficiency. And our service learning programs, we partner with local non-governmental organizations. Students get certificates of 60 hours of international service learning. And all of our programs, GAP programs, offer the Global Competence course, which helps students understand their own cultural background and how different aspects of what makes up culture and how we bridge our differences. Next slide, please. Our application deadlines for the fall are July 1st. Students' health, safety, and security is our #1 program priority. We do offer a program assurance advantage in that if we have to cancel a program, we will refund all the money that you have invested so far in the program. If you're itching to go earlier, if you're a younger student, CIEE has other opportunities for you. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, we have summer abroad programs, again, based in language, service and leadership, or academically focused subjects like global entrepreneurship, the STEM programs, arts, and international relations. We have $5.4 million in scholarships for students to study abroad every summer. We are planning to send lots of students abroad this summer, hopefully, and you can earn college credits on the language and culture programs, and that deadline is January 15th. We also have a really cool program that was a pivot when COVID happened, and now that Costa Rica is open to American students, you can go and do your virtual learning on our campus in Monteverde, Costa Rica, and then do a variety of activities and practice your Spanish for a month at a time. So that's open to all high school students now. And here's how you can contact me if you have any questions or would like more information about CIEE. And I will turn it over to Vanessa.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here with you all. My name is Vanessa Fiedler, and I'm a program manager at Amigos de las Americas. And today I'm going to talk about our spring gap programs. But first, I'm going to speak a little bit about myself. So I'm originally from Oregon, and I've been working with Amigos since 2013. I started in Nicaragua with Amigos, and I've also lived in Costa Rica and Mexico, and I'm currently back in Nicaragua. So for me, language has been very important in my life and in daily life. I use Spanish, and I feel really lucky that I had the opportunity. I didn't take a gap year. I didn't really know about the concept, but it's fabulous, and I definitely would have done it. I did study abroad in college, and that kind of sparked this desire to, continue learning languages and Spanish, and I think really was the thing that sparked me to live abroad for this period of time. So Amigos, as an organization, was founded on the principle that young people can change the world, and we're also an organization that's been around for a long time, 55 years, and we've inspired students through our authentic service and immersion experiences throughout Latin America. And our vision is we hope to see lifelong leaders sharing responsibility for our global community. So the options for spring, we have a wide array of programs, but I'm going to speak about two, which really do touch on this language learning concept. So our first one is the Civic Action Gap Semester. Next slide. So this is a program that is virtual. And with COVID, we were one of the organizations that had to pivot along with everyone else. And it was great because what it created was innovation. So we have partnered with Tufts University for over 5 years in the field in Latin America. And we continue to partner to put out this virtual program. So it's one in which you do a volunteership placement, which is like an internship and a virtual study with an organization in the US or Latin America. So that is one way that you can practice Spanish. We have one-on-one career mentorship. And then we have the cultural exploration language exchange. So all students take Spanish classes each week with a Spanish school in Nicaragua, and their language skills have improved dramatically. And later in the program, the second half of the program, we have been doing some of the activities in Spanish. There's also opportunity every week. We have an activity called the Language Cafe, and that is where students practice their Spanish and exchange. We also have students from Latin America in the program. So that's been a really great point for this cultural piece and language acquisition. So quickly, just what to expect. There's up to 13 students. It's about 18 to 24 hours per week, so you can still do some other things. You also, it's 6 to 8 hours with your volunteership and virtual tours. We do tours with agencies, and we have speakers in Latin America as well. So next slide, thank you. Our next program that I want to talk about is our gap semester in Costa Rica. So this will be our first in-person program since COVID. And this is an opportunity to immerse yourself in Costa Rican wilderness and culture and to learn about sustainable conservation efforts, agriculture, and community adaptation to climate change. This is a 10.5-week program in a region where we've worked for a very long time, called Perez de Leon, Costa Rica. It's in the south of the country. And students will be in a pod of 12 to 20 students. And the really cool thing is that you'll get to know students from the US and Latin America. There are 2 spots for Ticos or Costa Rican students to participate, which is a great way to incorporate the language and cultural component every day in the pod, to be sharing and exchanging culture and language. Next slide. So our program pillars, we have the same 3 pillars for all of our programs, and it's leadership, cultural humility, and service. Next slide, please. So leadership, we have the mentorship, partner organizations. Students will meet with partner organizations, and they'll be living in a pod, and this is due to COVID. On Amigos programs, we typically have host families. However, for this program, we are not doing host families due to the COVID situation. We do not want to put families at unnecessary risk. So we have decided to create a pod culture, which is going to be a great experience for interdependence, exploring that, and our connection, our human connection. The cultural humility piece, so we have Latin American youth, as I mentioned before, in the program. We'll have Spanish classes and local staff. So there's lots of points for immersion in the pod, and it's going to be a really great experience to improve those skills. And then we have our service, so we'll be at a nature reserve for most of the time. And a great part of Amigos program is we want you to take what you learned back home. And so next, we have health and safety is one of our #1 priorities. We have been leading this in the field. And next, I'm gonna just finish up here really quick. Next slide. So eligibility for these programs is 17 to 22. You can contact our program advising team through our website and the chat function and fill out an application. Next slide. And an important deadline is December 15th, which is our financial aid deadline. And January 15th is our final deadline. And if you want to join, we have sliding scale, we have financial assistance, we have fundraising, and we really work with you to make sure that you can join our programs. Thank you. I'm going to pass it to the next presenter.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Spencer. I'm the Study Abroad Advisor with EF Language Campuses. Go to the next slide. So just a little bit of background of me. My name is Spencer. I've studied in Thailand, Fiji, Laos, living with host families and in residences in various situations. And through the years, we've had a number of different experiences, I guess I've had a number of different experiences where I've been able to take my past and be able to help students, understand what learning a language is about, what living with the host family is about, what immersion is, and how you can really use that for your personal growth, for your career, for college. And I'm really excited to walk you through this. Next slide. So EF, International Language Campuses, to give you a quick overview, EF has a couple different programs within our organization. We have EF Language Campuses, which are schools that focus on teaching a specific language and focusing on language immersion. EF also has a gap year program. So if you're looking to do maybe not just language, but maybe some volunteering, some internships, touring, multiple cities in Europe, more of a program that has many different elements. That's for a gap year program, which we're happy to talk to you about as well. So let us know. But tonight we'll be talking specifically about our language schools that we have around the world. So EF has been operating for over 50 years of experience. And we have students coming from all over the world. So on average, we'll have around 20 to 25 nationalities represented at our schools at any given time. EF owns and operates all of our schools, and we specifically focus on the language. So at our schools, we're not teaching other subjects. We are teaching the languages and focusing on immersion. So we own and operate our own curriculum as well. So all of these classes are going to be hands-on. It's not going to be lecture based. It's not going to be, sitting in a class filling out worksheets. It's all going to be, how are you able to talk to a taxi driver? How do you practice talking to a waiter or a waitress in the classroom? And you're going to be doing role plays and group projects and talking with the teachers. And this is also, you feel really comfortable and confident to be able to go out and do that in the afternoon. Go to play karaoke with some friends or meet some locals and do that with them. Go to the K-pop concert and ask people, how do I get here? Where do I do this? And you're going to be using that language in real life. And because of that, you're going to be remembering it and you retain that information. So we have, I know this is a typo, we actually have 8 different languages around the world. We do have language campuses open currently, and I'll get into that a little bit later. We have campuses in Central America, Europe, and Asia. And we do have both residences and schools in the city centers. So they're not on the outskirts of the city; they are in the city. We have 2 different programs. So we have long-term programs that operate 4 times a year, and these are 5 months or 9-month programs where you can make sure you have everything you need for that length of time, right? We also have short-term programs. So if you're maybe wanting to do 4 weeks or 12 weeks, or maybe you want to do, rock climbing with Knowles or something like that, and you want to have different modules of your gap year with maybe different programs, we come into place because you can do a 2-week program with us as part of a broader gap year. So you can kind of structure it where you could commit to, maybe your goal is, I want to be able to be fluent in a 6 or a 9-month program. I want to prepare to, because I'm going to French college next year, I want to make sure that I get to this goal. You can do a long-term program, or maybe you want to maybe just try it. You're trying different things on your gap year, and maybe you want to do a short-term program. So we have different options depending on what you're looking for. Our class sizes, on average, will have 12 to 15 students in a class together. On average, we'll have around 30 to 70 students at the schools right now for COVID. Outside of COVID times, it could be anywhere from 70 to 400, depending on the time that you're coming and the school, of course. But we do guarantee that every 6 weeks, you're advancing basically the equivalent of a semester worth of college. So it's one of our sub-proficiency levels of the language. We do offer college credit through the University of Montana, and this will show up on your transcript as University of Montana. It's our partner school in the United States. And you are able to get that for both elective credit, so maybe you just want 1 credit, or maybe you want a whole semester worth. Both are applicable, whether it's elective-based or language-based credit. We do have a varied class schedule because, again, we want to be able to provide experiences where you feel confident using it in person. So we do give you a lot of free time to explore the city. And it's not structured where you have to do a certain activity with us, but we do provide a lot of different activities so you can plan accordingly. So these are some examples of different activities that you can do with our program, but you can also just grab a couple friends, go to the nearest cafe and hang out as well. We do have host families available, which would be immersion, preparing meals for you. And then we also have residences available where you can prepare your own meals, more dorm style or apartment style, depending on the destination. Next slide. Thank you. Oh, yeah. And then we do have all ages. So 16 and up, it's not just for 18-year-olds, but we primarily are 18-year-olds during your gap time. So fall, winter, you're definitely going to be with other 18-year-olds who are doing the program with you. But we also have summer programs, as we are a 365-day program. And then one last thing is that we are open currently for classes, so give us a call and we can talk to you about availability. Thank you. We'll now pass it on to Jessica.
All right, thank you so much, everybody, for those informative presentations. I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and one of the first questions that we had coming in was, is there somewhere we can see these slides after the meeting or the recording or similar information? So we will go ahead and show you a contact information page where you can contact any of these presenters after the event is over today. This recording of the session will also be posted on YouTube, so anyone who has opted into emails from us will receive an email with a link to all of the recordings for all of our sessions this week. So do go ahead and keep an eye out for that. If you are interested in following up, though, I'm sure you'll get some more information from any of these presenters as well. So we've got just 2 questions in the Q&A today, so we'll either wrap this up quickly, or if anybody has any burning questions that they want to add in, they are welcome to do so through that Q&A feature at the bottom of the toolbar there. But for now, we'll go ahead and jump in. The first question that we had coming in was one about a less common language. They're interested specifically in learning Dutch. So I didn't see that mentioned on any of the slides. Maybe Marian, can you provide some insight for anywhere that Noah could learn Dutch?
I'm not going to be much help. EF, do you even offer Dutch? That would have been who I've gone to, but
Can I jump in here? CIEE has a social justice and activism program that's based in Amsterdam. So it is a career exploration program. It is not a language focused program, but you would be living in Amsterdam. But other than that, I don't know of an organized program that offers Dutch.
All right, I'm also going to go ahead and throw a link into the chat there, Noah, and anyone else who's interested in Dutch. This is a link from Go Overseas. So specifically, it looks like we have about 20 different programs listed on our site, even if they're not represented here today, who do offer programs in Dutch. All right, so quick question there for Vanessa. Is there any flexibility for the age requirements in the Amigos program?
Yeah, great question. So we take age flexibility requirement requests on a case-by-case basis. So if you're interested and you don't fit into that range, definitely reach out to us.
Great, thank you so much. The next 2 questions we have are about scholarships. So I'm going to take a moment and answer them on behalf of USA Gap Year Fairs, but then I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say. So specifically, the USA Gap Year Fairs and Go Overseas will be offering $15,000 in Gap Year scholarships starting next year on February 1st to kick off Gap Year Exploration Month. There will be a grand prize of $10,000, which can be applied to any of our participating Gap Year programs. Participating programs means one who are part of this campaign. So anyone who you've heard from here tonight and anyone who's speaking at any of our other events are eligible to be awarded this scholarship. And there's also a second prize of $5,000 that can be applied to any of those programs as well. One of the other questions that I have coming in are scholarships competitive? And I think it really depends. I can tell you that last year we gave away about $3,000 in Gap Year scholarships, and we only saw around 250 applicants for that. So I can absolutely tell you that that was not a particularly competitive one. We certainly don't require a lot of things in terms of GPA or field of study. So definitely do apply. It doesn't cost anything to apply, so it's always worth the opportunity. With that, I'd love to pass it over. I know that a lot of your programs offer financial aid as well, so maybe if we can just go in the same order that we spoke in the presentation and provide a little bit more information about scholarships.
Sure.
I
So
quickly jump in there
go.
for specifics. Just Gap Year Association has a link. I think it's financial assistance, and there's 2 or 3 pages of scholarships and grants that may not be language specific, but for Gap Year, and you may be able to apply them.
And CIEE's pool of scholarship funding is for our summer programs for students that are currently in high school. But we do have $5.4 million, and 80% of that goes to language and culture programs.
Yeah, we also offer scholarships. So we have a pool of financial aid money that varies by program. And this is why we have our financial aid deadline coming up of December 15th, at which time we evaluate the pool of applicants in the order in which they applied, and also, their interest in the program.
And EF Language does offer scholarships from $2,000 to $1,000. We'll have many different ones offered throughout the year, depending on your start date and destination. So it is destination specific. So you would get in touch with us first, and we release those different times throughout the year. We also do have payment plans available as well.
Great, thank you all so much for chiming in there. This next question I'm going to direct at Marian, but maybe if any of your programs apply, you can feel free to follow up from Marian as well. So Laura is here asking, are there any language programs that also combine with outdoor or wilderness adventures like hiking or alpine skiing?
Well, I know that you could do a language program in Grenoble and combine that with skiing, because I did do that. I think there are quite a few in Europe. And I don't have specific names for you. I do know that like Knowles may not focus on language, but they offer programs in different countries, whether it be Scandinavia, Nepal. So you would be probably learning some of the language while you were there. But there's quite a few. I know that HMI has a program down in Chile. So you'd be using your Spanish there, but it may not be the focal point of their wilderness program. But I think just by living there and interacting with the locals, you would probably learn it.
Great, thank you so much, Marian. Did any of the other presenters want to add on to that as well? All right, so I do see two participants.
Yeah, our program in Costa Rica.
Go ahead.
Sorry, our program in Costa Rica has different wilderness aspects as well. So we'll be primarily living on a nature reserve. So you're out in the wilderness and do different work. We'll also be doing different excursions to other outdoor places. So waterfalls, volcanoes, mountains, think a lot of outdoor activities.
Great,
And
thanks so much, Vanessa.
Yeah, the same here. We have a campus in Costa Rica that's in Monteverde at the base of the cloud forest, and there's lots of hiking and opportunities to get outside and do some wilderness adventure.
Great, thanks, Melissa. I do want to address, I see that two participants have raised hands here. If you do want to ask any questions, please use the Q&A box. It's text-based through the bottom of the screen. We have just a couple more minutes, but I want to make sure we get to any other questions that we have coming through. So do please submit it through that Q&A box if you'd like to. The last question that we have pending right now is a student asking, can I travel with friends on these programs, or do most students come alone? Marian, maybe you want to answer this one as well.
You can travel with your friends on a structured gap program. However, I usually try to encourage students to not be with your friend if you can. It's part of stretching yourself a little bit. I did work with two girls and they wanted to do the same program. They ended up going to different destinations. One went to South America and one went, I think, to France. So yes, you can do it with a friend, but the trouble is that you might just stay with that friend and not mingle with others in the group. But yes, it is possible.
All right. Thank you so much. And with that, we have worked our way through the questions. So we'll go ahead and just pull the presentation back up and make sure that we give you guys some resources to head out with. So the first slide that we're going to see here is contact information. If you have opted in to receive updates from us or for us to share your information with the presenters today, you will be hearing from us after the event. However, if you would like to reach out individually, do feel free to screenshot this page here so that you can reach out to them. I know they'd all love to hear from you. Moving on, we also have some resources that we've compiled for you guys. There's some online resources, some gap year counselors who are all fantastic to work with. They will be featured as well through the upcoming events that we have. So we want to pull up that calendar. We do have, 5 more events coming up this week. So if you have any questions about career exploration, internships, work exchange programs, networking, sustainability and social justice, outdoor experiences and adventure trips. I know we had one question about that today. Risk management, gapping during COVID, or gap year in the arts. We would love to see you again. Please do join us later this week. It's been fantastic having you all here with us today. Thank you, Marion, Spencer, Vanessa, Melissa, and those of you behind the scenes as well. It's been so great to speak with you today, and we really enjoyed having you on the call.
Thank you all.
Thanks so much. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you all. Have a good evening.